Hello and welcome to episode 1409 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Tuesday, April 29th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this afternoon by Justin Mason. Justin, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Do you have any fab left?
I do, because I was super blocked off for Kurtz. Like, I truly could not justify, even if he had been like everything, hit 4 homers this week and just hit the ground running. My first corner util is really, really locked off to the point where I'm not even getting all of Kyle Manzardo's goodness in one of my leagues because I've got Vlad Jr., Nate Lowe, and Ben Rice. So that's where I'm at. And I undersold how important how high Agustin Ramirez would go. I knew it'd be big. I went triple digits, but the 2 homers on Sunday, we've talked about it a million times. Sunday performance of a guy who's going to be a hot topic that night is terrible if you're interested in a player. And he ended up going, I don't know, what, $100 more because of the 2 homers, I bet, on average?
Yeah, probably. I mean, he was insanely expensive.
He had a huge week and then capped it off with 2 homers. Agustin Ramirez, Marlins catcher. And so, like I said, I think he was already going to go triple digits. Then this was pushing it into the 200s and 300s. I talked to you about this offline. You were saying, Bob, we're going to see $500 bids for Kurtz. And you were right. But you were saying that as a high end, and you greatly undersold it, comically so.
This has to be the record, right?
Has to be. We can ask Greg if he has data for, or even like a Zach Waxman, who I know keeps a lot of that sort of data. 901 in an auction championship for Nick Kurtz. Now, look. We're not in the business of going around and just clowning people left and right. I mean, we make jokes and stuff, but
we are kind of, but no.
I don't think like other fantasy managers, like we talk shit about players and stuff like that, and we're not afraid to take some shots here and there.
I mean, you literally went on a tirade recently about people being stupid.
Right. And that was rare. And I said the same preamble before I did that. I was like, I don't usually do this. Like, you're
got a lot of positive feedback on that, by the way.
Like, if you were cutting Pete Crow Armstrong after 9 games or whatever it was, that was very stupid. This is a terrible bid, though, right? 901. There's nobody that would ever justify that.
Yeah, I mean, you know what the runner-up bid was?
Like 400 or something.
Yeah, 387.
I didn't quite remember exactly what it was from when I looked, but 901 was the max, and the next highest was 711 in another auction championship. What are your auction cohorts? Because you're big in the auction championship scene. What the hell are they up to?
Both these were online auction championships, so the $150 version. But still,
that's crazy.
These are insane. Like they're I'm sorry, even if like Aaron Judge gets dropped or they'd lock him out of the player pool. But
But what I get what you're saying. Like who's the best call up prospect ever?
Yeah, Ohtani, pitcher and hitter, with Ohtani being able to throw 150 great innings. He isn't worth $900 because you just leave yourself with no fab. It's just
that person is in 4th in the league and 207th overall. They're in the mix of the auction championship. And I have to be honest, I think they just shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah. I almost wonder if it was a misclick.
It was supposed to be 90.
Yeah. Yeah. Something like that.
I could see that. Cause I mean, and it's a first baseman. Again, not that you could really get me to justify it, even if it was a middle infielder or something like that. But a first baseman for 901, and Kurtz has a lot of hype, but he cannot earn that back. I don't think there's anything he can do to earn that back. So that's pretty tough. We don't know what this person has spent before that, but they
spent at least something because they've got a backup catcher. Or they picked up Carson Kelly to replace Ivan Herrera at some point, just looking at the roster, and they picked up Cameron Meisner. So they have probably $50,
$20.
Yeah. At best they have $50 left to spend.
And I'm looking at the team, it ain't good enough to hold off with $50 the rest of
No.
the way. I'm sorry. Like, so I hope it was a misclick for their sake because that's more justifiable than this actual bid.
It
'Cause I'm
has to be
sorry.
like,
It's just a bad bid. It's just bad.
I
Now,
mean, you're in the
main,
record books. Like, no
right?
one's ever, I don't think anybody's ever beating that. Like, that
I
is,
don't think so either. In the main, you nailed it. You said we'll see some
yeah.
500s. We saw 2 for Kurtz, 557 and 517 with 377 and 283 backups. Again, higher than I want to go, but I can understand that a bit more. There was a 476, 473, 406. So that one's pretty tight right there. That's not too bad. Where were you on Kurtz? Did you get him anywhere?
I got him in one league. I mean, I put some pretty big bids in, but only in a couple leagues that I actually like try to go $300 or more.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much the places where I said like, hey, I really need the power.
Yeah.
And even like my main event, like I think I went like 230 or something like that. 231 it looks like, because that was my
Very
best
representative bid. You could have gotten Kurtz in with 231. You could have gotten him in 4 leagues. So you'd have had to be one of the lucky ones there, but you could have got him.
I got him in one of my auction championship leagues. It was a 337 bid. 325 was the backup bid. So it was a pretty damn good bid.
That feels really nice.
I will say I was the backup bid in a number of leagues, including in Barf, where I bid 337 and
didn't get him.
Greg Smith bid 338.
Oh my God. That's amazing. I'm sorry you lost that, but that is so amazing. The efficiency there. I get giddy for efficient bids, even when they aren't mine. Just seeing them.
Brutal. That was absolutely brutal.
Ours was very close to that, 327, 325 in TARF. And I gave the little hat tip there. And I'm like, that's really, really sharp. So it's a weekend, right? We're not going to get too hung up on Nick Kurtz one way or the other for a weekend. But what are you realistic? I know we talked about it, but just to recap for anybody that maybe didn't hear when he got called up, what do you realistically expect him to be able to do? Because he does have the strikeouts coming up, and those have been there at the outset here, 17 plate appearances, and strikeout rates start to stabilize about 60 plate appearances in. And that's actually going to be a little hint as to what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk plate skills, strikeout and walk rates that are starting to stabilize a bit, and how valid they feel to you. What do you think about Kurtz with the swing and miss? What can he realistically do here with 5+ months of potential production for people?
I think it's going to be really, really good. I mean, I'm not super worried. I mean, I think there is going to be some swing and miss, probably strike out at like a 25 to 30% clip. But
you can still do a lot of damage with that if you hit the way Nick Kurtz is expected to.
There was a great thread on him, and I'm trying to find it.
While you're looking for that, I'm going to look up last year's players that struck out at that clip, let's say 25 to 30, that produced big. I mean, in different profiles, so not the best comp, but it's the top guy here. Ellie De La Cruz, 31%, had a 118 WRC plus. Colton Cowser, this one actually might be a decent comp here. Colton Cowser struck out at a 31% clip, but still put up a 120 WRC plus with 24 homers, 77 runs, and 69 ribbies. If Kurtz did that, you'd feel pretty good about a $300 purchase of that, right? Brent Rooker.
If you need the power, like if for sure. Absolutely. So the thread on Twitter done by Dynasty Junkie at Pete My Slash Line. He went through and broke down every single one of his at bats prior to Sunday's Fab. And I will retweet this. So if you want to go
and send it over to me, I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, it was a fantastic rundown, and I'm pretty sure he's a listener to the show. So like really, really great job. Definitely go follow him on Twitter at Pete My Slash Line. So it was a really, really good thread where he broke it down, and like his conclusion at the end was like, this is, don't be scared off by the slow start. He's got a plan. He knows what he's doing up there. He's going to be fine. I think he will be too.
It doesn't seem like anybody was scared off of Nick Kurtz despite the early struggles. Here's a great comp of somebody who's actually very much in the news right now too. Eugenio Suarez had a 28% K rate last year, 30 bombs.
Yeah.
Right. So like, you're not destined to fail just because you strike out a bunch. And Suarez and Shea Langeliers is another one, 27%, 29 homers, and neither of those guys walk that much. Kurtz looks like somebody who can walk more in the 9 to 11% range and kind of maybe offset the Ks a little bit. So he could be an absolute monster. I just wanted to talk about that because that was one of the bigger ones. You and Jason talked about how it could be a Fabapalooza, and it kind of was, because then you had Agustin Ramirez again popping 2 homers to really push his bids up. He ended up going for a high of 493. He went over 400 4 different times, a bunch of 300 sums, and the cheapest that you could get him was 153. And he looks excellent. And then Jordan Beck. I actually want to talk a little bit about him before we get into our topic here, because not only did he have a massive week thanks to a doubleheader and then just great performance throughout, but he also has some pretty rotten plate skills. And I wonder if people are going to regret buying. The thing with buying these weeks, of course, is that you don't get the week. So, you're paying for something that happened. And yes, it was a fantastic week. Jordan Beck, was so bad early on, he got sent out, came back immediately for Zach Veen. Now has a 1022 OPS, 35% K, 12% walk. Were you in on Jordan Beck anywhere? Because he had a huge range. He went as high as 335, a couple others over 200, a bunch in the triple digits, but there were a good number in double digits too. So if you were on the low end getting him in that like $80 or cheaper, that's not too bad. I don't think I could have gotten to triple digits with Jordan Beck. Where were you on him this past weekend?
I had some like backup bids on him but he was not my top choice even after the massive weekend. And Jason said, because we talked about Beck on the podcast on Sunday as a potential fab guy, and Jason said, like, you don't get these stats that he's already produced. Like you've already missed the goodness more than likely. You look at like his XBA, it's still 236. The underlying skills are terrible. He's a 78 zone contact percentage. He's 16.5% swing strike rate. Like these are not good stats. There is some pop in the bat. Obviously, we saw it.
And he can run.
Yeah,
and he on the bases.
And he can run. But he has no hit tool. Like just absolutely no hit tool. And I do think I wrote him up last night for Fantasy Pros, because I do the kind of main event fab wrap up every week over there, and I said, like, people are going to regret this one.
I think so too. I think even the triple digit bidders might, like even the low triple digits might, like I couldn't get there. I'm looking at him with Jordan Beck and I'm just like, no, I just missed his best week. We kind of know who this guy is. If I can't get him for $62, which is the bid that I had, I'm not interested. And
I didn't even bid on him in my main event. Like
I don't blame you. I really, really don't.
There was nobody on my team I wanted to drop over, and like my offense sucks in the main event right now.
And you still realized no, can't do it. All right, let's talk some plate skills. And just looking at strikeout and walk improvers at the high end here. And again, when you're looking at stabilization rates, and when you're talking about stabilization, all that means is that the sample in question can now be baked into the whole mix here with some validity. It doesn't mean that that's who they are the rest of the way, unquestioned. It just means that after 120 plate appearances, this walk rate now has some validity to it, and you can start to count it with everything else that you're looking at. 60 plate appearances for the strikeout rate, I should say. So we're going to start with some walk rate, guys. I will point out that Cedric Mullins is on here, and I'll talk about when we get to him, but we already did a deep dive on him. So go back to the previous episode if you want to know how we feel about how well he's performing. But we got to start in Atlanta with Marcell Ozuna, who's made some major strides with his walk rate, 13 points up to a 24% walk rate. Now, I wonder if some of that is like, hey, nobody's really hitting in this lineup and he's, getting pitched around a little bit, or if he's had some tangible improvements to really jump up, because we've never seen anything like this. He had a spike in the 2020 season, which we wouldn't even really count because it was 60 games. And then a couple times he's been at 11% back in 2019 and just last year. So he's been on the rise, but this is a huge spike from 11 to 24%. I will also point out a nice little 4-point dip in his strikeout rate, including a halving of his swinging strike rate from 14 to 8%. I guess that's more, not quite half then, I should say. But where are we on Marcell Ozuna's huge walk rate spike? Is it just some early season flukiness, or is there something to this as he's off to another wonderful start? Marcell Ozuna is.
No, I mean, this is a tangible change, right? I'm not expecting him to have a 20% walk rate. Very few guys can maintain that over the course of a full season. However, we're seeing him just be extremely patient at the plate. His swing percentage has dropped from 47% down to 34%. He's just not swinging.
And that's a huge dip.
Well, his O swing has dropped from 27% down to 18.5%. Like, that is a massive change. And this isn't a matter of being pitched around. His zone percentage, it is really right in line. It's about 0.5% lower than it was last year. So he's making more contact in the zone. He's swinging less in and out of the zone. He's just kind of being very patient, waiting for his pitch, and then trying to crush it when he finds it. But if he doesn't, he's willing to take that walk. And I mean, like I said, I don't believe that Marcell Ozuna is going to end the year with a 23.5% walk rate. But if he's at like 12, 13, 14%, I'm not going to be surprised if this kind of sticks around.
Yeah, I wouldn't be either. Like, this is some real tangible improvement, like you said, with Ozuna. He looks wonderful, 181 WRC plus. And as a util only guy, he came in util only this year, right?
Yeah,
I have that right. He's getting the classic Poppy treatment where he goes, a good 2 rounds cheaper than he probably should on performance alone because people are afraid to block off their UT spot. And I know you actually had some situations, you had Shohei in a league.
Schwarber.
You had some other util only guys. So I know he wasn't necessarily on your radar, but you don't run from it because you had Ohtani, you had Schwarber. Yeah. So if Ozuna had been there at the right price for you, I know you wouldn't have run away from him. And he's been excellent as they try to turn around. Would they start 0-7? And
something like that.
They're coming around. I think they're actually going to be fine. Baltimore, I'm not so sure about. Let's talk about Matt Chapman, who's up 11 points, up to 21%. And again, he's now with your boys in San Francisco there. He jumped up last year and had a really interesting season, including the 15 steals, which we marveled at like crazy. He went from 4 to 15 and just out of nowhere stole 15 bases. He's doing it again, by the way. He's got 4 for 5 on the base paths, but now he's got this big walk rate spike. Unlike Ozuna, Matt Chapman has had a nice, consistent double-digit walk rate, 13, 11, 11, 10 over the last 4 seasons, but this is doubling of those rates or damn near at 21%. What, if anything, is Chapman doing for that, and can he sustain it? Because right now that's kind of carrying his line. He's only hitting 214 thanks to a 254 BABIP, but a 379 on base is helping him to a 129 WRC plus. So what's up with Matt Chapman right now? What are you seeing with him when you're watching the Giants every day?
This is kind of the inverse of Ozuna. Like, he's not really doing that much differently. It's the pitchers. The pitchers are not coming into the zone on him. His zone rate has dropped from 54.5% down to 49%. Like we talked about with zone percentage, like 1 or 2 percentage difference is a big jump.
Right.
And so teams are just not attacking him. His first pitch strike rate is down almost 10%, 64% down to 55%. Everything else in terms of, he is swinging less, but that's probably just because people aren't coming into the zone very often against him. So he is being patient, and he has always been kind of a fairly high walk rate guy, double-digit walk rates pretty much every year of his career, especially if you don't count the 2020 shortened season.
Which we don't.
Yeah,
which we don't. It counts, but we just don't say it as a full season.
Yeah,
I got something for you.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, Matt Chapman absolutely cooked on first pitch and has over his career. He has 395 plate appearances that have ended first pitch in his career. He's got 32 bombs and an 1177 OPS, including last year first with the Giants, 1380 OPS and 8 homers in 68 plate appearances. So this seems like pitchers are making an adjustment, and he is compounding it by also, he's not chasing to get that first pitch. And he's saying, fine, if you guys aren't going to give me anything, I'll spin on it. And Matt Chapman has this great walk rate. Do you suspect that the hitting around it, the 214 average, he's not a huge average guy, but can he get back up into his 240s to kind of put together another really compelling season for your Giants?
Yeah, I think he can. I mean, he's one of these guys that's like similar to the Eugenio Suarez's of the world, the Jake Bergers of the world. Like he's gonna run hot and run cold and run hot. So I suspect he will end the season around 240, somewhere between 240 and 250 in terms of batting average, but a great on base percentage. So like those of you who do play in OBP leagues, like this is a guy you love because his batting average is always kind of mediocre to bad, whereas his on base percentage is usually pretty good and looks great with that power and the weird stolen bases that have appeared in San Francisco.
On pace for 22, Matt Chapman is with 28
Unreal.
homer pace, so he could be happy even if he hits 225 at this clip with the homers and speed. He would still be having a fantastic season, but I agree with you. He'll get
especially with a 380 on base percentage. Yeah, you'll take that all day long.
That would be monstrous. This is where Cedric would fit in, plus 10 for his walk rate. But again, we deep dove him past episode. So if you want to get our thoughts there, you can check that out. Let's go over to my Tigers. Talk Zach McKinstry, who's really been a nice find. They've dealt with a lot of injuries, and he's kind of a super utility type who's really helped out. He's doubled his walk rate, plus 8 points up to 16%. And, watching him daily, I do believe that, at least anecdotally, I'm going to trust you to give us the numbers here, but it does feel like he is a lot more dialed in. He's taking much better plate appearances than really any time I've seen from him. And I've always been a Zach McKinstry guy. He's like one of these, low back of the roster, super utility guys that I have an affinity for. And I remember when he was a Dodger, I was like, man, I wish the Tigers had him. And now they do. And he's off to a great start. Is there anything to it with the 16% walk rate for Zach McKinstry?
He is swinging outside the zone a little bit less, about 4 percentage points less, gets him right around league average. But other than that, like, not really seeing a ton here that makes me go, okay, why is there a big jump here in the walk percentage? I think this one definitely comes back down to earth, and maybe he's a little bit better than he was last year, closer to like the 8.5% he's been, towards maybe even 9%, 9.5%. Right. But there's not much here that says McKinstry is like treating plate appearances that much differently.
I think that's fair.
He's swinging a little bit less, being a little bit more patient, still making the good in-zone contact. I think McKinstry is going to be good. I don't think he's going to be this good, but 275, which is his XBA, seems like a fair.
Tigers will take that.
Yeah, if he hits 275, you're going to be stoked, especially in fantasy when dude is like eligible everywhere.
Yeah.
He's even eligible. I'm in a Fantrax league and he's eligible at pitcher. I'm like, I'll never use that, but that's fun.
But it's nice to have. Yeah. Again, looks more dialed in, but that's anecdotal. And I know he's hitting well, but it is with the 426 BABIP. Yeah. And maybe they're just being a bit more patient, cautious with him because he's running hot. We know the BABIP will come down. I would take a 275. I'd take something in the 90s for his WRC plus, even if it's a little bit below average. I think if the Tigers could get something in the 90s from McKinstry, playing him all around the diamond, that's the perfect super utility type piece. So I agree. This is probably some run hot more than anything else. The only thing going well for Luis Robert Jr. and the White Sox is his walk rate. Obviously, it's still been a disaster this year. We've talked a bit about them before. I've maintained that I think they will get better because the prospects will start to come up. But that is one thing that's going well for McKinstry. He is up 8 points to 14%. I shouldn't say that's the only thing going well. He does have 10 steals, but he has a 152, 275, 272 line. So now his OBP is higher than his slug. Are they just pitching around him because he's the only competent batter in that lineup and he's actually letting them? Or is there something more tangible here with Luis Roberts' walk rate spike?
He has the best O swing of his career.
Okay, so he's compounding. Yeah. They probably are pitching around him, and then he's compounding. Oh, they're not actually.
No,
they're so it is him then.
They're coming into the zone more.
Okay.
1.5% jump, and like I said before, a 1 to 2% jump is a big deal. So actually coming into the zone more, mostly because he's not a very good in-zone hitter anymore, right? We talked about this in the preseason. Like all of a sudden after the 2022 season, his in-zone contact numbers just dropped off off the face of the earth. And this is actually his worst in-zone contact numbers of his career if you don't count his rookie season. But he is not swinging outside the zone and as much. I mean, dropping it down to 27.7% is a really big deal because he's been in like the mid 30s most of his career. And this is actually right below league average. League average this year for O-swing is 28%. So he is clearly being more patient at the plate. He's also swinging inside the zone 4% less this year. So I think this is a tangible change where he goes, I need to be a little bit more patient. I need to wait for my pitch. And I think if Luis Robert is going to figure things out, it's going to be this way. He has to have a way to get on base that isn't reliant on his in-zone contact ability because that hasn't been good.
Yep.
And if he's more patient outside the zone, but also inside of the zone and waits for those pitches, maybe he will make more contact on a regular basis. By being a little bit more patient. So I really kind of like this change from Robert. I'm not thinking this is going to necessarily turn him back into the Luis Robert of old, but I do like the fact that he is up there with a plan and sticking to that plan so far.
Yeah, that is nice to see. Do you think, and pure speculation because we can't know for sure, but do you think if Robert got traded, he would spike up just getting out of that situation, going
Probably.
to a team? Yeah, I feel like it, right? Because there's still a core set of skills that are good. Maybe not, what was it, 2021? That was his huge season, or was it 23?
23 was his huge
23.
season. But like the underlying skills in 2023 were bad.
That was what was crazy about it.
Yeah. And it's the only season in which he's gotten more than 500 plate appearances, really more than 425 plate appearances in a season.
Wow. More of a Byron Buxton type than I thought.
Yeah. So, he is one of the more injury prone players in all of baseball. And so I do wonder though, like how demoralizing it has to be to not just like it's demoralizing to be on a bad team, right? Absolutely. But like a team that is so atrocious around you. Like when you look around, you go, there's no one else here. Like places like Miami, places like Colorado. Like it's just got to be a really, really, places like the White Sox. It's got to be really, really demoralizing. And then especially when you see a guy like, Garrett Crochet get traded, and you're like, oh,
he got out. They sprung him.
So I do wonder like how much, and he's kind of an emotional guy, right? Like he plays the game hard. He's not one of those guys who dogs it. So it has to be real difficult. And I do wonder if he got traded to a contender, a team like the Yankees, a team
that could be a really good fit for Luis Robert Jr.
It would make a lot of sense, right?
Yeah.
So even like a team like the Giants, like would make some sense. Like if he got
y'all are good.
If he got to a different place, man, like I think he would be at least better. I'm not saying he's going to turn back into the 2023 version, but I think he could be better just being in a different construct.
I tend to think so too, especially if he takes these new skills with the walk rate and everything out there. He's already got power and speed. I really hope that they do trade him because I would like to see Luis Robert Jr. be better. But at least right now the walk rate is going well for him. One more on the walk rate before we get into the strikeout guys. Back to Atlanta we go with Matt Olson +7. Up to 17% for him. And again, they're trying to turn around that ugly start. And they basically have. They're now 13-15 after an 0-7 start. They're going to be fine. I never really panicked on them after the 7 games. They didn't even take it the way Houston did, where they kind of stunk for a long period of time. Houston stunk into like mid to late May last year before turning it around. I feel like Atlanta's kind of already back. Matt Olson's a part of that. He has a 1-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio with 18% at both. I probably could have put him on both lists here because he has a nice 7-point improvement in his strikeout rate as well. 4 homers, only a 117 WRC plus, which matches last year because similar to Chapman, despite the great OBP, he's only hitting 222. What's up with Matty O? He's got a 247 BABIP. That should improve. Can we see a big surge here with these improved plate skills, or what's going on here to drive this or to facilitate this success?
So I'm glad you mentioned Chapman because I think this is a very similar thing. They are not coming into the zone on him as much. It's just a small drop, but a 1% drop, like I said, isn't nothing. It can be meaningful. But the first pitch strike rate is down from 60% from 60% last year to 53% against Matt Olson.
Wow.
You pair that with he has dropped his O swing almost 10% from 29% down to 19.5%. So
That's
below
huge.
league average is massive.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not really swinging less inside the zone, a little bit less, 2% less, but not 10% less like the O swing. He's being much more patient, really recognizing the zone. And this is the thing with Matt Olson. So every year I write an article on punting batting average, right?
Yep.
And
One of your favorite things to do.
It is one of my favorite things to do in standalone leagues, right? And what I often do is I look for a player that is just wildly all over the place year to year in batting average. Matt Olson is that dude, but he's also wildly all over the place in on-base percentage. His on-base percentage is the last 5 seasons: 371, 325, 389, 333, and this year it's 369. You can't predict it. You just never know. Like
you would have shocked me with like quizzing me on that, because you think of him as your prototypical power first baseman, and usually the OBP is kind of part of that, and his has bounced around a bunch, which is kind of weird for Matt Olson.
Yeah, so I do think that there's obviously a tangible change in terms of the O swing. I think that is the real big thing, and the first pitch strike rate. Teams are not willing to give him that first pitch strike because they're afraid he's just going to absolutely blast it. But this is I think it is the lowest O swing of his career if you don't count 2020 and his rookie season. He is clearly making his approach I'm going to be more patient. I'm going to make sure I'm not swinging on things on the corner, and I'm just going to wait for my pitch. And I think it's going to work out really well for him.
Yeah, I think so too. I liked him coming into this year. Didn't end up with him anywhere. I got Vlad in one of my mains, and then who's my starting first baseman? I don't remember, but I didn't get Olson. But it wasn't for the lack of interest. It just the way things broke. I didn't necessarily have. I'm a fucking dumbass, dude. I do have Olson in the other main. I was like, I even questioned myself right as I said. I was like, actually, you might have him. So I do have Olson in a league. That main is not doing very well, so maybe that's why I memory hold it a little bit. But anyway, good to see him doing well, and I do think that batting average will come up. And like I said, I already think they're fine, but if you did have any lingering concerns about the Braves, I wouldn't be too hung up about it. Let's move to the K rate, guys, because now we're going to get in your wheelhouse, baby. You're going to be able to talk some zone contact rate. Everyone's going to be really excited for that. Let's start with that boy, Shea Langeliers, out there for the Athletics. They've got a lot of things going well for them right now. They're playing some solid ball at 15 and 14. They're very much in the mix of that division because no one's running away and hiding with it. The Mariners are up top at 16 and 12, Astros at 15 and 13. Then you got the Athletics and the Rangers there at 15 and 14, and even the Angels, a representatively solid 12 and 15. Like, it's not great, but like they're not even buried right now. But Shea Langeliers is part of that rising offense right now. If there's anything to this, he could be a totally dynamic player because one of the things that you thought is 224 average last year, 27% K, 29 homers, 80 ribs. That's fine. Bad batting average, going to swing and miss a bunch and give me my power. 15% on the strikeout rate. So that is a 12-point improvement right now. And his swinging strike rate is down from 13 to 8. Are we seeing something real here? Unfortunately, it has not yielded results for the batting average, but there's a 216 BABIP that should at least improve to his career 250 marks, which would take him above the batting averages that we're used to. He has a 221 right now. That should at least get him into like the 240s if the BABIP regresses. What's up with Shea Langeliers and this very much improved strikeout rate? Is it legit?
It is. It's absolutely legit. And this is like the buy low point on Shea Langeliers, if there is even the ability to buy low.
The average might make it sneaky available.
I mean, the 5 home runs is the only thing, but it's only with 5 home runs, it's only 12 runs in RBI. So like, I don't think someone is going to extremely overcharge you. He currently is hitting the ball just as hard as he always has. Dude can crush the ball when he gets a hold of it. Barrel rate's a little down, but ultimately, the hard hit percentage is right where it was last year. He's already had his max exit velocity increased this season with a ball hit 114.5 miles per hour. The big change is he is being more patient inside of the zone, not outside the zone, inside of the zone. He's the same O swing as last year, pretty much, but his zone swing percentage is down 4%. And what that is allowing him to do is pick his pitch inside the zone. His zone contact last year was 82.9%. It is 91.5% this year.
Wow.
That is massive.
Yep.
For context, like, guys who that would give him a top 25. He's actually 25th in zone contact this year, tied with Andrew Vaughn.
That is so massive for Shea Langeliers. And again, hasn't gotten the results for it yet. Yeah.
His XBA right now is 271. This is the easiest buy low of all time. You should be going out right now and trying to get Shea Langeliers.
And this is the classic one that I say, start with a discount, but pay market if you get charged market.
Yeah.
Like I would buy at even if somebody holds firm on you and says, no, I'm seeing the strikeout rate too. I'll trade them, but you got to pay market. Fine. But you might even be able to get a discount because 221. And there's been some catchers to come in, not just Agustin Ramirez, but like Carson Kelly, some other guys. So there might be some depth for the Shea Langeliers team that they might be open to trading him. Let's talk Rhys Hoskins. He's down 10 points to 19%. He is your classic, 3 true outcomes sort of first baseman over there for Milwaukee. And so far we're seeing some okay results from him. I mean, the WRC Plus is fantastic. When I say okay results, I only say that because it's only 3 homers, but the slash line's great. 296, 396, but the 432 stands out a little bit for his normal power. Is he sacrificing power for these for this improved strikeout rate for Rhys Hoskins? What do you think?
I'm going to answer that question, but first I wanted to just go back because I had a point that I forgot to mention. No, it wasn't you. I kind of forgot to mention it. The park factors on strikeouts in Sutter Health Park, which is the new A's stadium in Sacramento, versus last year. Last year in the Oakland Coliseum, the A's were the 16th worst park in baseball.
Okay.
In terms of strikeouts for hitters. This year, they are the 5th best.
So like a beautiful batter's eye there, setting up, and Shea Langeliers is taking advantage of it. So everything and I think you brought this up when we talked about, I forget which athletic the other day, it hasn't even heated up yet.
Yeah, it's nothing. Like, I mean, in about a month and a half, everything is going to be flying out of that park.
I'm so in on Langeliers, and I will remember my roster on this one. I do have him in one main, not the same one where I have Olson, but I really am excited about what he could do from here. Shifting back to Hoskins again, this looks like it might be a classic trade-off here, but is it worth it? 10-point improvement in strikeout rate from 29 to 19%, but the power is in the midst of a power outage right now. Well, 136 ISO is far and away his career worst. This is a 240 career ISO guy, which is just slugging minus average for anybody that doesn't know. 136 right now. That's pretty pedestrian, but you can't argue with 296 average. So is the trade-off worth it? And is that what you're seeing, a direct trade-off here, or is it just coincidental that we've seen this trade?
I think it's coincidental for the most part. I mean, there's a little bit of drop in nose swing and a little bit of gain in zone contact, but really, really small. Ultimately, I think most of his success is buoyed up by a 344 BABIP this year for Hoskins. His XBA is 270, which is still like that'd
be great.
That'd be fine.
Do you think the power returns while the batting average comes back down? Like, how do you see the rest of things playing out for Hoskins? Okay.
He's a career 17% homer to fly ball guy. This year he's at 11.5. The power metrics are pretty in line with where it was last year. It's actually up back towards like where he was when he was in Philadelphia in terms of like his average exit velocity and hard hit percentage.
Okay.
I think he's gonna be fine in terms of the power, and maybe he keeps some of these gains in terms of batting average instead of being like a 245 hitter, which is where he was for a lot of like his Philadelphia career. Like maybe he's closer to a 260 hitter with this power. So I think this is another guy where like I don't see a massive like shift in the profile, but just a small one that could lead to some goodness. So another guy I might try to buy low on right here. Well, not as someone like, oh, well, I'm getting the batting average, and I know he's.
I think you're just buying at that point. I don't know if anybody's giving you a discount when they see, but they're, you know what, they'll be trying to sell high.
Yeah,
and I don't think that sell high is going to be tough to buy. I think
I need to write, like, I always, obviously I write a buy low, sell high column over at Fantasy Pros, but you know what I need to write is like a buy high, sell
Buy
low
high,
column.
yes. Who are you interested in? And then a sell low, just get out from under it, which I'm very worried that you would put Marcus Semien on such a list. I'm starting to get nervous.
I'm not nervous.
Okay, good.
I should be nervous, but I'm not.
Maybe you should be. Greg eyeing us from across the room like, I told you, idiots. I told you, idiots. But not yet. And in fairness to him, he's not taken any victory laps on that yet.
Nah, I mean, I'm a little bit nervous, but like he is getting unlucky.
I think so too. And I love Marcus Semien. I'm nowhere near cutting him. I'm nowhere near even benching him.
And like I'm looking at the underlying numbers. Like there's not much of the underlying numbers that tells me like something is
truly... So 175 BABIP. Like again, and I always stress this. I'm never one who's just going to do BABIP and give you no further analysis. So I will point out there is a 5-point jump in strikeout rate, and I'm not going to ignore that. But that alone would not explain this. I think the BABIP explains the underperformance way more than the strikeout rate increase does for Marcus Semien. I would definitely buy low on him because I think you could get a sharp discount on Semien.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to our list here. Teoscar Hernández, a show favorite. We've both been big fans of him throughout his career. Admittedly, I think was it last year or the year before, you were a much bigger fan than I, and I was wrong. I forget which year it was. There was one I was a little sketchy on him.
I've been a big fan of Teoscar pretty much every year.
Right. You never gave up on him. I had a little crisis of confidence. You know what it was? It was last year because it was coming off the Seattle year, and I should have just washed it away due to T-Mobile and said he'll be fine. And then he popped off with the Dodgers, and I was very big in on him this year. Go ahead.
The thing about Teoscar is at some point this will all fall apart. Like he is one of these guys that like he does not have a good in zone contact, but he just makes up with it for having fast hands
and just mashing the piss out of the ball.
And at some point, he's 32. At some point, it will just all fall apart. Like he'll be very like Randy Arozarena or Baez-ish, where like he goes from like, oh, he hit 30 bombs last year, and then he hits like 14. You're like, what the hell happened?
Or he keeps the bombs up but hits 2 1/4.
Yeah, but at this point, like I don't bet on that. Like he's not a guy that I end up with a ton because his price has just gotten so expensive. But
being on the Dodgers and all,
you just can't doubt him until it actually happens because you're gonna guess wrong, for 3 or 4 straight years before you actually get it right.
And that's where I wound up. So I took a 1-year hiatus on him, got right back in, and we're seeing a 10-point improvement in his strikeout rate, very similar to Hoskins, 10-point improvement down to 19%. Now, it has been countered a little bit by a walk rate decrease, and his walk rates are already pretty uninspiring. He spiked up to 8% last year. He's down to 3%. So it's a little give and take there. You're still not upset with the bottom line. Even with a sub 300 OBP, Teoscar has a 274, 291, 585 with 9 homers and 2 steals. Of course, 27 ribbies being on one of the best teams in baseball. So add it all up, you're still very happy with what you're getting out of Teoscar. But what do you see here out of this 10-point strikeout rate improvement? Is it countered by the 5-point dip in walk rate? Is that anything to worry about? Where do we go from here with him? And he's hitting 274 despite a 260 BABIP, which should improve.
Well, I can explain the walk rate really, really quickly. Because that's super easy to figure out. The strikeout rate a little bit more difficult to figure out, though. His swing and strike rate has dropped, but it's still 14.5%.
Which is that's pretty high.
The minuscule walk rate is the zone percentage. He has been kind of around a 50% zone percentage guy. Teams come into the zone about half the time. Last year was one of the highest ones of his career, actually tied for the highest of his career at 51.2%. This year, 57.8%. And like I said, I keep saying, like a small percentage change in zone percentage can be really, really massive. So when you see a guy have it jump 6.5%, you're like, why are pitchers attacking him this way? Like it makes he's actually got the second highest zone percentage in all of baseball. And like,
is it this real quick on Teoscar? Is it because you have to attack somebody? You can't pitch around everybody?
I think that may be it, honestly. Like it makes no sense because you look at this list and you look at like the top 4 guys on the list, Brendan Donovan, number 1, Teoscar 2, Dylan Cruz 3, Maikel Garcia 4. The other 3 guys are all guys where a pitcher could say, like, I'm just going to knock the bat out of his hand. I'm going to throw it in the zone.
I'll attack you.
Like, if he's not going to beat me.
Yeah.
But Teoscar can beat you.
Yes, and he is.
And he absolutely is. So, like, I think this is a weird approach shift from pitchers that is not working for them, and they are going to readjust this. So, like, I don't expect this to continue. In terms
the Ks will go back up, but the walk will probably trickle back up to his 6-7%. All in all, nothing actionable here. He just made the list because we're going in order of the list, but I just wanted to bring it up because it is kind of weird. He's just a monster, though. I love Teoscar. I would definitely buy high on him if you need power, because I think you're still going to get great production.
It's got to be like, and I'm not a big proponent of like lineup protection, but like I think this is one of these situations where, especially with Edman hitting so well behind him, and then he's probably always coming up to bat with Ohtani. Yeah, with like 1 or 2 of Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman on base. Like they're just in a position where it's like, well, I can't walk the guy, bases loaded for Edman. Like, so I gotta attack the zone, and he's just crushing him.
You got Will Smith after that too.
Yeah.
Right. So like it does get a little less at the bottom there with Conforto, Muncy, and Paez, but for Teoscar specifically, what's that?
Paez has been hot.
Yes, he has. Actually, he's been countering the fact that Conforto's been ice cold. Paez has been dialed in. I'm a big Paez guy, so I'm glad to see that. All right, let's move on to this one. This one's kind of interesting here because it's certainly not yielding any real results for Ceddanne Rafaela. He does have a minus 10% or 10-point drop in strikeout rate down to 17, but again, an 80 WRC plus, which is 1 point better than last year. So I know it's a 261 BABIP, so it's like it's more contact, but it's shitty contact, I guess. What's up with Rafaela? Because to me, I think he's just a super util guy eventually, and Anthony has to take that job because I just don't think dude can hit. But where do you come out with Ceddanne Rafaela?
We're actually seeing some really good improvements in terms of the in zone contact. My biggest, I had 2 big issues with Rafaela in terms of his hitting ability, because we know he's got power, we know he's got speed in the profile, right? One, he is a terrible in zone hitter. He averaged 80% in zone contact, which is right at that precipice of like, are you really a major leaguer? I don't know.
Yeah.
But then he mixed it last year with a 46% O swing. So he was swinging outside the zone almost 50% of the time, which was, I think, top 3 in baseball.
I would believe it.
And then he had the largest swing and strike rate in all of baseball at 18.7% last year. He's improved all of those areas. So his zone contact is up to 82.4%, which is still below league average, but much closer to league average than he was previously. He's dropped the O swing, not a ton, but 3%, over 3%, 3.5% from 46.3 down to 42.9. Then you look at the swing and strike rate for Ceddanne Rafaela. He's dropped it from 18.7 down to 14.5. Still not good, but you can see why the strikeout rate has started to drop. He is getting unlucky. His BABIP is 261 right now. Where he's been more of a, above a 300 BABIP guy.
Yeah, and he's got speed too, which can help you carry a better BABIP. His power numbers are also up too, Justin. You got a 3-point improvement on exit velo. You got a 7-point improvement on hard hit rate, a 4-point improvement on barrel rate. Is it just the BABIP that we're not getting results for Rafaela then?
Yeah, his XBA is 257. If he was in 257, I don't think we'd be super worried about him. And he's a really good defender. I actually think that I've not been a Rafaela guy, but I'm intrigued by this.
Yeah, maybe I got him a little bit wrong then, because I came in like, nah, he's the guy who needs to be looking over his shoulder for Anthony. We're dealing with 70-something WRC pluses his first 2 years.
At worst, he does move to a super utility role once Anthony comes up, but I still think he plays every day because you've got a lot of guys in this lineup that need regular time off. Like Story can't play every day.
And speed guys like that can still deliver enough fantasy
Yeah.
value, even if he's missing a game a week.
Especially when you're such like, because he's not like the defender that like, oh, you play every position because you're not good at one of them. No, he's actually good at a lot of different positions. So he could be a guy who, you know, maybe he doesn't have a defined role at some point this season because Anthony comes up, but Rafael still plays, you know, 6 days a week because his defense is so good and he can play and give everybody days off.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that with Ceddanne Rafaela. Yeah, I'm a little bit more intrigued by this than I thought at first blush because that BABIP should go up, and I like that he has a bit more punch with it. Because that's what first thing I thought was like, oh, maybe he's just hitting the ball weekly, but no, he's actually striking it well. He should get more results here and start to improve a bit. Let's go to a true power guy, and we'll actually double up here on the Mets. One guy who's been absolutely out of his gourd, Pete Alonso, who we'll get to in a moment. But first, we got to talk Mark Vientos, who the results haven't been as strong with. Now, if you had told me at the outset of the year that he was going to improve his strikeout rate by 10 points and his walk rate by 4 points, and you guaranteed that for me, I probably would have moved him up my board by like 2 rounds, because Vientos is a heart versus head battle for me. I love him as a player. I root for him, but I didn't want him in fantasy because I had some real concerns with the 30% K rate and 7% walk rate and where his price point was. I felt like he was being a bit overrated in the fantasy market, so I was kind of laying off of him. With these plate improvements, he's just not getting the results to go with it. He has a 96 WRC plus, 250 BABIP, and only 3 homers. Should these plate skill improvements be yielding results, or are they fluky? Where do you come out with Mark Vientos?
No, they should be getting results. He's swinging outside of the zone a little bit over 6% less, down from 31% to 25% this year. His zone contact, which was terrible and has been terrible at every single stop, is actually improved. It's above 80% for the first time in the major leagues in his career. And teams aren't coming into the zone again against him. So he's his first pitch strike rate has dropped from 65% down to 55%. That's a 10% drop. His swing strike rate has dropped. The zone percentage has dropped about 0.5%. Or almost a full percent, which is something to kind of pay attention to. What I love is that the O swing has dropped, but the zone swing percentage has actually risen, right? So like he is understanding the zone. This is why we're seeing kind of a big change in the walk percentage from 7% up to 11% on top of the strikeout rate dropping. I think a lot of it is BABIP influence. Now, I also think that last year he was lucky. I think he was really, really lucky to hit 266. I think he's probably more of a 240, 245 hitter. But I think he could be very Matt Chapman-ish without the stolen bases. And that is really interesting to me. I also think that the Mets will stick with him. So I think, while we've seen them send guys like Brett Beatty down, I don't think that Vientos is in much kind of risk of getting sent down. I think he's going to continue to play. So I think Vientos is a pretty interesting buy low. I don't think that there's going to be a massive rebound necessarily in terms of batting average, but there should be some, and I think the power will be there. He did hit a home run last night, though. It was off of a hitter pitching because they were up.
That's right, because they were getting absolutely murdered.
I was watching it. I was having lunch and watching that game, and I was like, oh, it's 2-0. Oh, it's 4-0. Oh my God, it's 15-0. It happened all of a sudden.
It was quick there. It really was. And all of a sudden they just kept piling on the runs there against the Nats in that game. So yeah, I think you can get a discount on Vientos. I don't think it'll be super extreme, but I think you can get enough of one to investigate it. And if your power is struggling, you can get some of his power goodness the rest of the way here. Let's talk Pete then. He's been unbelievable. I mean, just absolutely, I don't even say carrying this team because they've gotten other good performances, but he's been the foundational centerpiece that you want out of Pete Alonso. He's got a 9-point improvement to 16% in his strikeout rate and +5 on the walk rate from 10%, which is totally fine, up to 15%, which is awesome. What's going on here? Is it just the presence of Soto that's making things better for him? Or are there things that Pete is doing to generate this? A 367 BABIP, that will not last, of course, but things are going remarkably well for Pete Alonso right now. Is he doing anything to facilitate that?
I think he is the one who's doing something. It's the exact same zone percentage as last year, 49.7%, both this year and last year. So nothing's really changed with, maybe they are being a little less aggressive early on in the count. The first pitch strike rate is down a little bit, but for the most part, no, this is him doing this. He's dropped his O swing from 26% down to 22% while increasing his zone swing percentage from 60% to 64%. That's big. He is being more patient when people are going outside of the zone and being more aggressive inside of the zone. And when you're a good in zone contact hitter, the way Alonso is, that can really pay dividends. And I definitely buy this. I mean, he probably doesn't, keep a 15% strikeout rate, but if it's closer to 20%, or 20%,
that'd be huge.
I think that is probably what you're going to see, along with a jump in walk rate, probably around 12% for the year. So, and I think he's just going to continue to mash. Yes, he's getting lucky. He's got a 367 BABIP. He's a career 266 BABIP guy. But his XBA is 319. He's deserving a lot of this because his average exit velocity is up almost 6% on the year. His hard hit percentage is up from 46% to 60%. Barrel percentage up from 13% to 20%. He's putting on a show, and I think that there's a good chance he can continue to put on this show.
Yeah, that is really impressive there from Pete Alonso. He's been awesome. Easy guy to root for. I'm a big fan of his. I like seeing him have success here right now, and I hope he continues to do that for the Mets. Let's finish up with a really solid vet who looked like after last year, it was a second straight year of kind of modest output for Nolan Arenado going into his age 34 season. I understand why there was some skepticism, like maybe this is the beginning of the decline phase here, and maybe he is just kind of okay. Now, the early season here doesn't suggest that is blown out of the water because it's only a 116 WRC plus, but the core plate skills here are vastly different. Not only is he minus 8 points down to a 7% strikeout rate, but he's also up 5 points in his walk rate up to 12%. So both factors have greatly changed. It is paying some dividends, but maybe not enough. Only a 253 BABIP. He probably deserves better than that. What's going on with Nolan Arenado, and can we buy into this and hopefully get some better results going forward for him?
So this is a little bit of a combination of both the pitcher's approach and the hitter's approach.
Okay.
They are not coming into the zone at him nearly as much. He was at 50.7% zone percentage last year. He's down to 45%. So that's a massive swing in how aggressive pitchers are being around him. With that, he's got about the same O swing. He has a little bit better zone contact, but like not much better. He's always been a good in zone hitter. He continues to be a good in zone hitter. I think the major difference for him is he is being more aggressive in the zone. 63% zone swing percentage last year. It's up to 66% this year. So he's saying, I'm a good in zone hitter. When I see it in the zone, I'm swinging. And I kind of like to see that, especially because, to be quite honest, the underlying power metrics aren't super exciting.
Yeah.
The average exit velocity is right where it was last year, which is the lowest of his career. His hard hit percentage is definitely the lowest of his career. It's down from 31%, which was the previous low, down to 28.7%. Barrel percentage is 5.3%. I think this is like clearly some like degradation of skills things for Arenado. I do think that this is kind of like the end of the road in terms of like him being a really good fantasy option, but he's still a good hitter. Like the approach, the ability to recognize pitches, like that is all still there. The bat is just slowing down. I bet you if I go and look, and I'm going to go look at Savant right now, I bet you his swing speed is just not very good because dude just is not making a lot of hard contact. So if we go look at the bat speed, 47%, or 47th percentile this year. So
so he just doesn't have as much juice. So he's still a plus bat, and even in these last 2 years for Arenado, 106, 102 on the WRC plus, he's still a plus bat. But this isn't the resurgence that maybe you had hoped for if you were hoping that he was going to have that one big punch.
I will say, like, if like I haven't dug a ton into like how usable bat speed is. His bat speed percentile last year was 28th percentile.
So he has improved.
47th, like that is kind of big. But I don't know how much it correlates to actual
skills
success
or results. Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
No, I think that's fair. If you got him, just hold and see where it goes. You didn't pay a huge premium for Nolan Arenado. And again, he has been positive. 116 WRC plus, 3 homers and a steal. You're not upset with what you got. You just would have maybe hoped that with this great improvement in the strikeout and walk rates that maybe it would return more. But as it stands right now, it's just been fine.
What's crazy to me is that this is his 5th season in St. Louis.
Like, I know. It feels like the second.
Yeah, like I really would have thought this was his 3rd season in St. Louis. But I think he's going to be, he's still a good defender. Like, I think he's going to be playing every day, an accumulator for, the next few years. And then when his contract's up in 2028, probably that's the end of the road for him and he retires.
And does he go to the Hall of Fame?
No.
I don't think so either. But
Hall of very good. I think he should get votes.
He should stay on the ballot for a couple of years, I think, at least. Maybe even his full 10 years. Like, very good player. They're going to debate the Coors aspect of it, where he comes out with the defense.
The Coors aspect of it is really going to hurt him, not just because he played in Coors, but because the drop-off happened right after he left Coors.
Right. And, that is just how it is. When you look at like something like Jaws, the guys that he's around, there's not a lot of Hall of Famers. He's right behind Dick Allen. So he'll pass him, but then it's like Sal Bando, Buddy Bell, Ken Boyer, none of whom are in the Hall of Fame. So I don't know. Like
if he has like 2 really good years, I could see it happening. I think the fall off just happened a little bit too soon. Yeah. If he could get to like 400 home runs with that defense, I think he would have been, but I don't think he's going to get there.
344 right now. So, here's the thing. If the body holds up, this is a guy who could play until he's 40, Nolan Arenado. Like, you could see that, but it's just hard to say if the body's going to hold up.
Yeah,
it is right now, but it's one of those things. Jeff Zimmerman's done the research. I've talked about it a million times on the show. Once you get in your mid-30s, it can drop like a rock out of nowhere. So
the problem is he's gone from a 30 homer or 25 homer guy down to
15, 16 last year.
Like, and now you need what 55 home runs, like, in order to actually get there. Like, that is, he could do it.
It's not impossible. It's not impossible. And he
hits 15 more homers this year, like, all of a sudden you're like, he's 40 away. Like, maybe he could.
And he's working with a 285 average. So even if the batting average keeps coming down, he's got something to work with there. Maybe he's closer than we think.
In this era, like, 285 is like pristine. Like, we're talking about like
absolutely
the league batting average is like 236 or something this year. I'm double checking it right now, but it's been like terrible, the league batting average this year. 241 league batting average. So when you're talking about a guy who is a career 285 guy, like, I still don't think he gets in, but I think there's a better discussion here.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it will come down to also like how much can you put on the defense? Like, how much can that boost him up to cover any gaps that he might have with the hitting? It'll be a fascinating case, especially if he plays another 5-6 years for Nolan Arenado. Yeah. All right, that'll do it there with some walk and strikeout rate improvements. We'll get back to something with pitching. I'll figure out some sort of topic for me, you, and Joe on Thursday. But until then, have a good one.
Take it easy.